broadcasting from the Rec W in Chillicothe, Ohio. This is the Ohio Vibe Entertainment Podcast. Each episode will feature an Ohio-based band, musician, comedian, actor, or other entertainer. If you would like to appear on the podcast, email us at submissions@theohiovibe.com. Submissions@theohiovibe.com. We're kicking off our podcast with a lively and interesting conversation we had with the band Sugarloaf Shakedown from Chillicothe, Ohio. Sugarloaf Shakedown is Dan Horton on bass, Roger Downs on drums, and Gage Chaney vocals and guitar. They have a show coming up on Thanksgiving Eve, November 22nd, 9 p.m. to midnight at the Crosskeys Tavern in Chillicothe, Ohio. Also check out their new single, Older Me, on your favorite music app.
My eyes are really
Widespread Panic. I've got that CD. I thought I recognized it, but that's a good one. And that's Beastie Boys next to it. Let me make sure I got my phasers on stun. You don't get those kind of jokes, do you?
No.
Star Trek from the 60s jokes?
I mean, it's in syndication, you know? You can check them out. It's just to bring us all together.
I have a little bit of curiosity.
They still make them too. I mean, they got new stuff.
Yeah, true.
You can get it on Heroes and Icons. I watched the original, the Next Generation, and clear up to Enterprise on that one.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed. I had that cool costume and Peter Pan won second place.
Dude,
and the same guy that wins it every year won it again this year. And he was, I mean, it's a funny costume. He was both characters from Ghost where they're doing the ceramic thing.
Yeah.
So he had a pizza box, a gray coffee mug, and then his hands were the hands on it. But then he had a head-size shot of Patrick Swayze taped to his shoulder, and then booty shorts. And he's about your size. He's really, really pasty and super hairy legs. So he came in with the booty shorts, and I was just like, dude, it's 6:30 in the morning. Just make sure to see your thighs. He's like, I know, you'll remember and vote for me later on, which I didn't vote for him there. Eric, Zach's son, came in as a giant purple furry. Ears, the whole thing, and a great big purple furry tail. So I voted him all the way through.
Well, I mean, it was just remember him as a kid, and then now, he probably is a purple furry. I mean, in real life.
Definitely.
So what time are we starting this?
It's rolling.
It's going right now.
Sorry. Why else are we talking about something stupid?
Why would we talk about purple furry?
If it's not going to be on our podcast. I told your grandma to tune in. This is the way our practices go too. Yeah. He and I start. He blushes and acts like he doesn't enjoy it, but then he does. Yeah, he doesn't. He's not a bigger. He's like, I better re-roll this guitar cable.
Later, you know?
Were you guys talking about penises? I'm gonna re-roll this guitar cable real slow, like,
so I can stick around extra long. If I had vodka, it's fine.
That's probably why we don't have very many shows. they hear us packing up. They're like, "Did you hear those guys?"
Was that the same guys that were playing music? Because I think they're convicted convicts.
Not yet. No.
How long have you guys been together?
A little over 2 years.
Yeah, kind of. We have kind of been together a little over 2 years. We started as a different band with a different name.
Yeah.
And we shrunk in size, and we just kind of went a different musical direction than how we started out. Can you not hear me?
Yeah.
Would you like me to talk into this mic?
I think this one's picking you up, but that's
okay.
Gonna be a little better.
Yeah. So we started out a couple years. We didn't know each other.
Yeah.
None of us knew each other. Roger was playing music with another gentleman, and decided he wanted to start a band, which you'd probably be better telling the story than me. That part of it, anyway.
Well, I was working with our friend Isaac, who is his nephew, and mentioned to him that I want to start a band. Hardest instrument to find in this area is a good bass player. He's like, oh, my uncle, he used to play bass. He's pretty good. I didn't know him, but then when I met him, I had met him in the post office.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We became very, very good friends pretty quickly. I think we have a lot in common besides our sense of humor.
Yeah. Kind of knew all the same people, like musicians around town. Like we both worked with Eric Green musically. Roger was in a Gypsy Jug Band with him. He was in a Gypsy Jug Band one time, and I don't know if you guys know who Eric Green is, but he was just a big giant character, and unfortunately he passed away with cancer. But I think that guy was the one that we kind of just like, oh my God, Eric Green. So
If we know that guy,
yeah,
then we have to be friends.
That's right. Exactly.
But I think when we met Gage and the band came as the 4-piece, the previous band, we saw that we had a lot in common. And even though we are 3 different generations, basically, 27, 46, 47, and I'm 55. So different musical influences and influences in general growing up, but
For sure.
Enough overlap that we have a great rapport with each other, and I think we appreciate what each other brings rather than look at it as a threat.
Or
it's
an obstacle
something
even,
that we
yeah.
can you know, build on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of flavor in there.
Yeah, I think that makes a good band when everyone has different influences.
Absolutely.
It can all come together. And
I think it's
Say something
interesting. We started out kind of like almost like a folk rock, I would say, and then when we became a 3-piece, we were definitely way more just kind of straight ahead rock and roll influenced, and like you were saying, there's not a threat. I think, or we don't look at it as an obstacle either. It's just like we all kind of bring a different flavor from our influences, and I think that it feels like we embrace that, and I feel like our music is especially our original music is, very you can kind of hear all of our influences in it. I feel like
There's a lot of texture, which is very important. I think when we try to tell a story and make it come alive in that sense, I think it's almost imperative that any song that I bring to the table, and I'm speaking for myself, but like whenever I bring something to the table, I typically have to tell a story about it. I don't I don't not repeat things in songs that I write, but like I try not to. I just try to have a journey from start to end and kind of have that flow. And whenever I bring it to the table, I pretty much just say, well, this is what it is lyrically, and here's the chords I came up with. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm more or less looking to just kind of just lay it out and see what can be built. Just kind of have like a foundation and just try to not try to influence too much of where I want it to go, other than just like, the initial introduction, and then whenever we bring it to practice and we just start hopping on stuff, it just kind of evolves into something that's extremely organic, but just very unique too in a way.
Yeah.
Because it's just like you can hear all those different flavors that we bring, and it's just it's a very impressive experience. It's kind of just like overwhelming sometimes. But it's awesome.
I agree. Sometimes it's like, holy crap. Like what was that?
Sometimes it's normally when it's the first sit down and it happens, and then it's just like, it's insane.
Yeah.
you guys record all your rehearsals, or just remember stuff, or
Yeah,
try
so
to?
we kind of just remember stuff. I mean, Gage and I will sometimes send videos of us playing like little snippets of stuff that we're like, hey, what do you guys think of this or whatever. So that gives me time to figure out like what key he's in, and I try to come up with kind of like an outline maybe of a bass line to some of the stuff that he shares. And then once Roger starts playing drums on it, that kind of informs me, like, where I need to go with my bass line and stuff. So we do some of that, and then we just keep kind of pounding away. And then if we get it to where, okay, like, say I need to do some homework, like I need to take this home and whatever, sometimes we'll record like a song, us playing a song, and then I'll take it home and work on it to
so that when we come back out, I feel more confident, trying to put something.
I want to say before I forget, when we bring something new to the practice, we all respect each other's abilities enough to not say, hey, I want you to do this. Or I've been in bands where someone has never played the drums before wants to give guidance on how to play the drums. And I kind of hang my hat on that because I'm not a guitarist turned drummer. I'm a drummer.
Yeah.
And I don't want to play another instrument because I like playing drums. So we might, give a little bit of whatever, but usually we let that person write their part and appreciate it for that.
Right.
For that,
Yeah,
so.
sure.
And if we want a song that has a different drum beat, we'll write another song.
I think I was having a hard time trying to explain that element for sure. Because I think whenever I come up with something out of nowhere, or I get inspired by another song or something, it just, I'm not sitting there thinking the drum's got to be like that, it's got to be this, or I'm just going to have a hissy fit about it. I'm just thinking, I can't wait to see what they put on it. And that's when it, I get real excited. I send some videos, and it's all like baby steps to like the grand, part of it all. Whenever we just finally get together on Mondays and we just rock it out, and it just turns into something crazy. And we're just like, sometimes it even goes a little bit off the path in which I kind of thought it would go, but then it's better. And I'm well, there it is. That's how it becomes such a us thing. So
right. And oftentimes you don't really figure out exactly what the part is going to be until you've played it even live a couple times. Because the first 5 times you play a song in practice, excuse me, you kind of are maybe a little timid about your approach to kind of hear what everyone else is doing.
Right.
Then when you play it live, you gotta kind of kick it in the rear a little bit and own it, because if you don't, the song's going to run you over, So I mean, I look at our songs as with this band, because it's not a slow country band or whatever, that it's straight ahead rock and roll, and it's kind of like driving a really fast but untested car, a dragster or a old hot rod or rat rod. Hopefully all 4 wheels are going to stay on. If not, we're going to keep the floor, gas mash of the floor no matter what happens. So, drive it through. So, and I kind of think we like that hot rod approach to playing, because it's just kind of fun with a 3-piece, because you're a little bit more nimble on stage, and
there's a lot more space sonically, than even when we were a 4-piece, and I've been in a different 4-piece before, and it was, I feel like with this band, it's like we're like, everyone's got to show up, everyone's got to bring their A game, especially, and I love that our willingness to play a song that we just wrote. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were talking about hitting it to the pedal to the floor on a song that we just. I remember the first time we played "Older Me," in front of people, and I remember the first time we played "Paper City Groove" in front of people, and it was like, I was so nervous, but it was so fun. You know what I mean? Because it was just like you said, we're like,
okay,
we're like, exactly.
We're getting ready to drop trowel.
But it's like, it was like because there's no holding back, there's no being timid about it. Like you said, like if we're gonna play the song, even though we've never played it live before, even though maybe it's a little bit loose, we're going to be full throttle, full volume, full everything.
And I mean, I think that's true with any type of musician or artist. Comedian or theater. If you go out there and kind of, I'm nervous, or not nervous, but timid to your role, you're going to break character or mess up. So you definitely gotta own it.
Right.
I think that's something, I don't know. I was in theater in school, and these guys were in different kinds of, and that's just how it is. You're. I mean, music is different because you're not creating a fantasy like in the theater, but you are telling a story or wanting them to, go with you on this little journey, if you will. And when we're done with the show, we're all sweaty and, we play like we're rock and roll people, not like we're up there. Well, this is just a bar with 20 people, so let's just kind of half-ass it today. And no, we go, play. We're sweaty at the end of practice,
right. And
so it's like we practice full speed.
To us to be that way too. Like we feel like they're part of the show. Like the people who are out there hearing us or whatever. We want them to engage with us because that makes it so much more fun. And most of the times they do. It's amazing.
Even just to tell us to turn it down. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Exactly.
You definitely don't want people just sitting out there, having their own conversations. And,
right.
Yeah, we don't let them do that. I'll get up in their face about that.
Yeah.
But it is the psychological aspect of it all, including the audience. Like we were saying, it's like I did research. I don't know. I grew up watching like Angus Young and stuff, so like I kind of already had that in my head of like that's how you got to be to make it. So then like I watched other people throughout the years that I found a extreme interest in, very attractive interest within the stage presence and stuff, and it's just like it's something psychologically that just immediately just like gets your attention. Like I could hear a really well played song and just note for note, beat for beat, it sounds great, and then I don't know, I can still talk to somebody and like still hear it and appreciate it, but then like the moment I see like an act or something going on where they're coming out and they're handing out flowers or they're just on the floor or they're just doing it's just like I don't not care that I'm with somebody, but I'm also like, hold on a second, I gotta capture this, and because it's
take
just
it all in.
You just remember that stuff. So that's why I wear outfits and I get on the floor and spin around and I jump on chairs and all that stuff because I like doing it. I'm young enough to do it. Well, I might start, just keep doing it until I can't anymore.
And he's thin enough the chairs will hold him.
Yeah, Roger and I worry more about that than he does.
I wouldn't be able to sue the bar if I collapsed their chair based on my body type. I understand. I know who I am.
Yeah, I just find it very important that we kind of have that approach, and he has the wireless bass system so he can actually go out a lot farther than I can because I like the straight chord sound. But
we'll just walk out to the crowd and just hang out with people who are into it.
Sit down at their table.
Sit down at the table sometimes.
I saw a video of you guys playing down the park and you were just walking around.
Oh yeah. The Halloween festival.
Yeah,
that was
that's cool.
It was. I mean, and we just really enjoy it. We really have a good time. I always like live music. I remember, how I tell a story. I'm not going to do that, but I remember from a kid like trying to explain the difference between live music and like listening to something, recorded. It's like live music is like watching however many people in a band. Let's say 3 artists paint a mural at the same time and just like watching it come together. It's like like Roger's playing his part, Gage is doing his thing with the guitar and vocals, and I'm playing the bass, and we're doing it all at the same time, and it's making this like sonic landscape or whatever. And then to be able to bring the audience into that too, like we're doing this together, like that's my favorite thing in the world. Like I love it.
Yeah, that connection is very special. Because I think about a lot simply because I'm still very young, and I do remember the people that inspired me in person and just through television and stuff. Because I grew up with YouTube and all that jazz, and I remember seeing that stuff in physical form and being more captivated by that. Just kept the fire burning. Even whenever I felt like maybe I don't want to play guitar, I remember seeing my uncle who taught me, and he just kept bringing more to the table that kind of kept feeding the fire that I have currently raging right now. And I don't know, I think about myself as somewhat of a kind of a person like that. Like I'm not trying to show off, I'm just trying to like inspire also. Because I'm still very inspired by new bands that I hear and stuff, and even the old ones that I haven't discovered yet. And it just makes sense that you just give it your all, and I don't see why not. Sometimes you go into it like maybe you go into a gig, you didn't have a good day, but whenever you get past that first chord, it's all smooth sailing from then. It seems like it just goes away.
Yeah.
And then,
We're still working musicians, not musicians working, So several times we either have to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning after the gig, or worked all day and then have the show. Yeah. Either way, it's just a sacrifice I'm willing to make, and it's never been like, a couple times I'm like, oh, I wish drums were lighter, or or I had a little trunk monkey roadie guy or something. But yeah, once they're set up, there's no, even the setting up is a thrill because of that anticipation, knowing what's about to happen. It's like, putting on a suit or something. You're going to do something different for the day, or special. And I think every show is kind of that way for us still, and I don't know of any other way to do it. I've been playing drums for a long time and in bands for a long time, and lugging drums into dark holes and setting them up and just have that same excitement. That's why I keep doing it. I think we've all kind of been at the place where it's like, I'm sorry I have to break up with you because I'm going to play music next weekend. I know, so it's what I do. So now when hey, I'm a drummer, I play in a couple bands, and it's what I'm going to do. So if you're not into that, let's stop this now, because so there's a Drive-By Trucker song, and the guy's knows he's being faced with his finality, but the line is, I can't die now because I got another show to do. Help me with my amp and my guitars. I'm going to play to my best, because he knows, he's facing his mortality. And I think that's I've mentioned that to a few people over the years, that attitude of, you got to play every show as if it's going to be your last, because you don't want someone to say, man, Roger was really good. The last 2 shows, he just sort of mailed it in. No, they're going to be like, he might have messed up a couple times, but it was because sweat was in his eyes,
Right.
So it's the passion of it all.
For sure. It's like, what would you do if the world was going on? I was like, can we play again?
Yeah. I definitely understand why the band played as the Titanic sank. That's what I'd want to do too.
Exactly.
What else are you going to do? Run around and get shot?
So what, back to influences, what are some of your guys' actual influences?
I'm big fan of the Grateful Dead. I'll just name a few bands. The Grateful Dead, Led Zeppelin, 80s alternative, The Cure, Echo, some of those bands like that. Now I love Spotify and just digging, finding all kinds of new music. Thievery Corporation is one of my favorites of, once I discover a band, I just research everything they have, all their solo stuff. It's like a whole thing for me.
Yeah, like down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So
I think it all kind of started with AC/DC for me, and my dad showed me the Highway to Hell album, and it just kind of was just such an attractive sound, and then I saw them visually not long after, and I think just seeing that was just wow, because Angus had so much energy and all that stuff. And then I think throughout the years, playing with my uncle at the Pumpkin Show and stuff, I kind of got introduced to other genres of music within the rock element of things, like the Eagles and the way they songwrite and have their harmonies, and that's just amazing to me. And there's just so many things that just kind of throughout the years have inspired, but I think blues was a main aspect of it all. I think, listening to old blues stuff with my grandpa and Jimi Hendrix, of course, which is a given for a lot of players. And then I kind of found Greta Van Fleet there when they first came around in 2017, 18, and followed them ever since till this day. And I've seen them multiple times, and they still continually evolve and amaze me. Every album sounds a little bit different, has a different story to it, and I think Josh's singing and stuff has just inspired me to kind of try to work with my vocals more and see where I can get, because I used to mess around singing, like Tenacious D stuff, and noticed I could get higher, but I was just fooling around, and then I just kind of took it seriously and tried to take off with it after hearing them, and then I just kind of expanded dramatically vocally, and then that just opens up more for that, because I didn't start singing until I started writing songs Probably in like 2012 or something. I liked this girl in school and wrote a song for her, and I was like, I don't want anybody else to sing it, so I'm going to sing it.
Yeah.
And that I didn't know who else to idolize in vocal range other than like Bon Scott and stuff, so I was just like, it was always there, I guess. And then the blues stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, and just real quick, like on his, I remember when like, because we knew he was a guitar player when he first was introduced to us. Like I said, we didn't know each other. I remember the first song that he sang, I was like, what the hell? What's this kid can sing? And I mean, it really has that. You could tell his influences too. My influences are mostly like I love Metallica. I love, and I don't care, I love all of their albums, including Saint Anger, and I don't care who knows it.
He instantly gets defensive.
But like Soundgarden, Alice in Chains,
Sweet.
those Guns N' Roses, like those bands have always been, and Iron Maiden, those bands have always been like my favorite. And like bass player wise, like I love Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses. I love Mike Inez. Actually, I prefer him over Mike Starr, R.I.P. He was a great bassist too. But that's what I grew up listening to. That's when I was going through the like, who the hell am I kind of phase. Those are the bands that I was like, I felt the most connected to, and that's what, like, and the bass players in those bands, I feel like they do the job I feel like I wanted it. You know what I mean? I guess is what I want to say. There's all kinds of like, Flea and Victor Wooten and all kinds, Jaco Pastorius, all these crazy good, bassists, right. Les Claypool from Primus, and they're amazing musicians. But I like the way that the previous bassists I mentioned, I like what they do with the songs, So yeah, those are definitely my influences. And there's a couple bands, Boba Flex. And then kind of their offshoot band, The Lonely Ones, kind of newer-ish to for me at my age anyway. That I just like Roger was saying, did the deep dive, and I like all their stuff, and I want
They did a record here,
yes,
a couple years ago,
yeah. And they're just like I'm like I don't know why they're not like the most famous, or right up there with those other bands that I mentioned, because they're making good music too. Like they're just really good stuff. So
timing, the world has changed as far as how music is, everything, how people ingest it and how it's sold. And a guy told me years ago, I was playing in a band in Columbus, and he said back in the 60s there were 100 bands making $1 million each. He goes, now there's 1 million bands making $100 each. He goes, how much did you guys get paid tonight? I was like, $125.
That's right. Yeah.
So, yep.
I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of influences, but it's just so many things.
It's just hard to just name.
Yeah, that's why I just tried to just scuff the surface, and
Like I know a lot of people are like Nickelback haters, but there was a Nickelback thing,
I am.
So I had that moment. It wasn't like a strong-willed moment where I strung it out and deep dived. I just had a couple of their songs on my MP3 player, and then it's just a lot of various 70s and 60s stuff too, real funky stuff. My grandpa showed me because he was into like kind of that blues and funk and kind of not really disco, but just kind of like that R&B kind of stuff, I guess, or Motown, I should say. Then it was like really interesting. That's kind of where I started finding the interest in the style of the 70s too, with flares and stuff.
I was a total 80s alternative snob. As soon as my little sister said she liked REM, I burnt their stuff. Found something darker. No.
I'm a big Tool guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tool.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Absolutely.
Their bass player's amazing too. Yeah. It's,
I'm just about anything 80s. Poison, Motley Crue.
oh yeah.
Poison was like the first one that got me in there, but I grew up with my dad singing country music and stuff, and we just that was kind of my first stuff, like Charlie Pride and
Oh yeah.
all that
like
stuff,
the
and
old
bluegrass
school
and
country.
I used to be a
gospel.
really obnoxious Kiss fan.
My uncle is not a.
I recognize that now.
Well, I mean, they obviously their stage show is what they're like probably most famous for, but they're all great musicians too. I mean,
My first shows were in church. My dad was a preacher. I grew up in church, and they would have whoever played in band or whatever would, from different schools would get together and learn a song and play it Sunday morning. I mean, probably the first time I played drums in front of people was in church. Not that we had a drummer all the time, but they were like sort of that premise. So then in high school, I was played tuba in band, but I played drums in local CHS has a swing choir called the Cavalites, and I played drum and under the close beatings of Joy Renner. No, she's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person and an amazing director, and taught me how to play drums in a way that the song needs are met, not the drummer's skills, because there's plenty of drummers who can play flashy stuff, but you have to play the song, and the people are there to hear the vocals normally, or the musicianship together. So she is a wonderful influence of this community and whatever. But so when you first start, it's still different than just bashing away, and it just seemed like it was an easier way to gain respect from other musicians by coming that way rather than in the garage just beating my brains out. I did that too, but I learned how to play with dynamics. Yeah. And I've always gotten that compliment in my drumming is you're never over the vocals. You always know when to bring it on and when to So I just kind of let that expand, and a lot of drummers that do that, I try to listen to what some of those guys, and I think we all bring a vast variety of influences, whether we say, hey, this is so and so's style, or just
Right. Yeah, I think the influences kind of almost like mold you, and then of course you put your own flavor to it, your own spin on it.
That being said, we cover their songs and none of my stuff, so they're scared to learn Cure songs.
I want to learn a Cure song. I want to learn a Cure song that you were listening to in the parking lot.
So I just pour it on them whether they like it or not.
No, it's cool though. We still haven't done Alice in Chains, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, at some point, it's funny how a band works. When you get together, you try to figure out what songs do we all know that we can play.
Right.
Because you want to have success early on. So, Smoke on the Water, or whatever, Every band has the first, 2 or 3 songs that but at this point, it's more enjoyable, and we play better on stage the songs that we've written.
Right.
Because I'm not trying to, feel like I'm under John Bonham's influence every time we play Immigrant Song. That's tough, all those songs are tough because everyone expects them to sound a certain way.
Yeah, right.
So unless you just totally just break it down and play it your own way, then that's what everyone expects. I put $20 in the chip jar, play this.
Yeah, we're definitely not a jukebox band. For sure, that's not.
When we master, getting back to how we started, when we master our own stuff, and you can get up there and rock it out, it's just so much more of an enjoyable experience for us, and I think the crowd feels that energy too. You can only play House of the Rising Sun and Blue on Black so many times before you just want to, gouge your eye out. But when your own song, it's different, I can see being willing to play some of our stuff for 20 years or whatever, and still feeling it's a great song.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely not that we won't pick up more covers and replace some of the other ones, but I feel like
you have to do it if you're a working band. It's
for
just
sure,
part of it.
Because people a lot of times, we play a lot of bars, and we appreciate the bars having us out there. And what a lot of people want to hear when they go to bars is songs they can sing along to. So unless they already know us and have been keeping up with the songs that we play. We're going to play, especially we don't have 3 hours worth of original music, and we're going to be playing for 3 hours. I feel like, when we do cover a song, it starts out when we first we try to get it real close to, how it sounds. Mm-hmm. But what is like 2 or 3, 4 times through, all of a sudden now it's got this different vibe, and it definitely sounds like Sugarloaf Shakedown covering whatever song that we're playing.
Yeah, I think
it makes it way more fun to play too,
Yeah.
But I think what we get excited about is the new stuff, like new original stuff is like one of us brings an idea and then the other two pick up on the idea, and that's what gets us like super exciting. They're excited. We're and those songs seem to come together relatively quickly. I would say it's like it doesn't feel like work, like we have to work on this thing to iron something out. It's like very organic, like what you were saying. And the way that it changes from the original version, I introduced a song a while back, and that we've been playing out, and we've kind of got it where we want it. And I listened to the original thing that I sent them a while back, and I was like, wow, that's so different. It's so different, but I love it so much more than when I kind of had, hey guys, here's this idea. It's just so much more fun.
Well, I try to kind of form somewhat of like an iconic or unique kind of riff here and there with obvious. Oh, well, try to do it every time, but I beat myself up a little bit too much sometimes with certain things, because I'm always like, I don't want it to sound so basic, but I'm also because I have knowledge on certain things, I want to try and expand and just kind of create a new element every time, different songs, different feel. Yeah. So anytime something's new brought to the table, it's either on my behalf or his. I just kind of try to honor where I think his wants to go, but I want to kind of formulate something that's a little organic too. So there's sometimes like the song that we're practicing now, there's just a little bit of like hiccups here and there that I'm like falling a little bit on myself, and I'm like, I know I can do something cool with this. I just gotta sit down with it and stuff sometimes and just kind of figure it out. But
yeah, that's interesting that you say that too, because like I remember with Paper City Groove, like it was like even the verse structure was so different, and we just went ahead and played it out, pedal to the metal. And then but through just like hearing ourselves play it or whatever, Gage's guitar on that evolved into what it is now, which is, like you were saying, like it's a very recognizable riff. Like when you play that riff, I'm like, oh, that's the Paper City Groove riff. Yeah. And like we changed the whole, and Roger's drum, most of the time when we play that song, you started out on drums, and it's like, oh yeah, that's the Paper City Groove, drum beat. And it's just like, it was forged live pretty much. And that's when like all of its flaws are and the good things about it are so obvious. When you hear it recorded live or you feel it played live, it's like, okay, this is where this needs to go. But yeah, I'm sure that that eventually, we keep playing that song.
It's very fresh, so it's just figuring out the changes and then developing that, because
it's one of the things when I go see one of my favorite bands, I try to get close enough so I can see them playing and see what they do on stage, and see, because I like watching people do stuff they're better than me, or at a higher level. So that level of perfection, I got to see The Cure twice this summer on their tour, and there's no hiccups, that don't exist. Now maybe to them they do, but you don't hear one boo-boo on the drums or one little. It's just amazing how smooth those top tier shows are. Right, yeah. And I like getting there early so I can watch the stage guys do their thing. I'm into it,
Me too.
Because I feel like that makes me better. I can take that to my Crosskeys show or wherever, a small venue show, and be like, okay, well, try not to make any mistakes. I know the parts that I'm going to play, and stick with that. Don't try to do anything different. Just tell myself those things, because then when you're in it, you may be like, what? Where do I? Just relax. Think about it.
Yeah.
You're going to play a 300 show tour.
Right.
You got to do it all muscle memory. So it may take us 40 years to play 300 years.
Yeah, I think I actually am starting to get into gear more too, which is funny. I've been playing ever since I was 8, and I never used pedals all the way up until like maybe 2 years ago. Yeah. And then I don't understand that stuff sometimes. Like that's why I was kind of afraid to use it, because I just didn't understand the way to run them, the way to hook them up, and like the power supplies and like what things did. So like. I didn't learn what like bass. Well, I know what bass is, but like mid and treble and stuff like that, I didn't really learn too much of what that meant for tonality until, like maybe 5 years ago on that. But then I started finding that I like pedals, and I was like, all right, well, let's start with that. Let's do that.
You want to get him something for Christmas?
Anyone listening, if you want to get Gage Chaney,
He has a wish list of Sweetwater.
Yeah, it's definitely opened the doors sonically, and just creativity. Like, just as a 3-piece, we have such a wide sound. I feel like that just, I don't know. It's very impressive, and I'm getting used to it now. But like when we first started doing it, it was a little rough after things settled into the 3-piece thing. But then like when we found that groove or that niche or whatever it is, it just kind of started to just, I don't know, it's blossoming of sorts. And
So you're using like delays and...
I use a digital delay. I think it's a DD7 or 8 from Boss, and it has so many different things, modulation, sounds, reverse, shimmers, and the tape delay and all that stuff on there, and you can adjust the dry and the wet and just the latency, the time, all that jazz. So like I use the shimmer a lot and the reverse and all that for psychedelic stuff, and just like every pedal that I have on my board has multi-function.
Okay.
I can't stand to have something on there. It's just, it only does one thing, because it just doesn't make sense why there's technology now that they have so much that you can do. And I have just, it's not a huge board, but I got at least 12 things on there. And the only thing that kind of is somewhat of a one-purpose thing is the micro vibe, but you can change how much is involved in the mix and how fast it's waving and all that stuff.
We normally don't let him talk about this stuff.
It goes on.
this is his first opportunity.
I'm a guitar player too. So.
Yeah, it's therapy. He's like, find someone who understands a modulator.
I can talk about my effing pedals.
This is the spot for it.
Overdrives.
Yeah, it's definitely an adventure for that stuff. But
and Gage, if you watch us playing live, like Gage has different settings. Like he doesn't just like kind of set it like for like this is my sound and blah, blah. Like every song we play, he adjusts something just a little bit. Like
it's a unique factor.
that's one thing about him that I noticed is he's very in tune with what his tone sounds like, not just for this show but song to song. It's super cool to watch. I'm not like that. I kind of just dial myself in. There's a couple songs that I hook up an envelope filter on and play around with, but other than that I'm pretty straight ahead bass. But Gage's tone is definitely he like it, and you can tell once he gets it dialed in how that affects the way he sings,
and
while he's playing
and play in general too. It just influences the entire experience and the story and all that stuff. And it kind of brings back to what you were saying, the analogy of like 3 musicians painting a mural. It's like those are my colors,
right?
So like I have to have that micro vibe at a certain rate, or it's gonna affect the tempo in general, because it's very tempo based, and it doesn't have a tap feature, but like. And even the reverse and how all that stuff, it just adds the color and the depths and the it's just kind of like, I love cinematic music for films, and you can tell when you watch a movie without the sound on, it's just kind of, what the fuck is that? But then you get the music involved, and you can even add different music to different scenes, and it turns into a whole other thing. It's just that.
Here,
to
I
me
thought you were just trying not to break strings.
Nope.
Who knew?
So yeah, I'm definitely thinking of all those elements and layers and stuff. I think that one of the best pedal purchases that I ever did get was the Mellotron 9 pedal for my guitar, because I can have a cello or a violin, like orchestra. There's even high and low coarse vocals on that thing, and you can affect just dial in how much, when it is, and how much guitar you're actually hearing through it. So like I could make my guitar sound like a cello, not a problem. So it's just a matter of knowing how to work that stuff, and that's what scared me getting into pedals, because I was like, they're like $250 unused, and like just prices vary, but like you just want to make sure that you know what you're doing, because if you got that thing in a certain part of the chain, it's just gonna sound not so good. So it's just like that stuff scared me, and then I finally was just like, just do it. Just do it. My grandpa influenced me a lot to get pedals. He's always like, here's a pedal. I'm like, thank you. Because they're normally pretty expensive ones that are kind of discontinued. So I'm like, okay, that's rather nice to have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that.
Let's see. Do you guys, what projects that you guys got going on? Anything you want to tell us about? Anything exciting coming up? Or
Well, we've started coming here. We've got 2 songs recorded. One we released as a single.
Yeah. It's called Older Me, and it's on all the streaming platforms.
All of it.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool, I mean.
Yeah, we recorded it here, and
Student session.
Yeah. And then we, my daughter's fiance T.O. kind of mastered it for us, because we got an MP3 instead of like the stem files.
Oh, yeah.
So he had to use some software and kind of separated it, mastered it. I think he did a really good job with what we had.
Yeah.
But that was a learning experience for us too. Now we know what to ask for as far as that goes.
So you used the mix they did that night, or?
Well, we used the mix, and then he split it,
And then he
kind of remastered,
Okay.
which Aaron did a good mix down, but it just wasn't volume wise and like with effects and stuff the way that because we didn't have a lot of time.
It's just certain presence things, but
we definitely wanted to get an original song out.
He's hard to shut up.
Yes, I am. That's what I'm known for.
When he's got a mic in his hand, it's jibber jabber.
But we definitely wanted to get a song out to where like people who were listening to us could just they could put it on their phone, they could download it, they could be able to hear our original stuff. It's the first of what we really hope to be many. We definitely want to do an album. We've got a lot of original songs that we're proud of, that we're happy with, that we keep writing more. And we've got some shows coming up. We're playing the Crosskeys the day before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
22nd.
Yeah. So that's this.
What were you going to say? You came from a session.
I was just going to say we came through here at the Rec W this summer. The both of us.
Oh, very cool.
We did a couple of those student sessions. So.
Yeah. So what did you guys think of that experience?
I actually came through before in 1999, and had the opportunity to come back just to do like a refresher. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean a lot has changed since 1999.
Yeah,
I've kept up with it since then, but just as far as going through the program, a lot has changed, because we were still using like ADAT tapes and DAT tapes and all those things when I was here. So
yeah, for Older Me, they used a reel-to-reel to record it on, then transferred it over, and that was a really cool experience too. If you listen to that song, you can hear it like wind in the beginning of it. It's super cool. Left that in.
I like that, those kind of little elements for texture, and you just kind of have that humility about things. Like I like string slides and stuff like that.
Yes, me too. Because you can hear there's an actual person playing it, and it wasn't dialed up on a.
The first time I heard about that they can studio eliminate I was like, why would anyone want to eliminate the sound of that's like eliminating ghost notes or something on the I mean that's to me that's desirable in a song.
Exactly. That's why I used to crank it up. That's why my hearing isn't as good as it was when I was a kid, because I want to crank it up and hear all the little,
absolutely. Like the squeak on Bonham's pedal. I want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my music that I grew up with, my biggest influences, I would just it was cassette tapes when I was a kid. That's what I got into, and I would wear them out and have to go buy another one, because I would just listen to it over and over and over again, and I love the bands, the bands that I mentioned. Maybe they had a hook in the song, whatever, but every time you went back and listened to it, you could hear just a little bit more different. Like, oh wow, they just switched keys like right in the middle of the song and then switched back, or what I mean? They changed up the bass line, or the guitar did something just a little bit different. Or hey, that's 2 guitars. Just crazy stuff like
There's some
that.
like Zeppelin stuff that's just kind of like such an odd timing thing.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. There's people say that it's like on purpose. But
I had an uncle that was a huge influence on. He would give me jazz album stuff, but one of the best gifts he gave me was a set of headphones. Because he's like, because mom was, I'd come in and just crank it up, and it's like, dude, you're going to get in trouble. Your mom's already complaining. She's going to take everything away from you. Here's headphones. And I was just like, because all those little things that make it real,
right?
Stick clicks and, whatever.
Yeah.
Was right in your ears. Like, you just don't hear that when the music's going into the room. So.
I had a similar experience with the Walkman. Remember the Walkman?
Oh yeah.
And I realized that you could achieve this in your room as long as your parents weren't downstairs and mad at you. But when you put a Walkman on with the headphones, it didn't matter where you were. You could tune everything else out and just be in the music.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just, it's like, transformative.
Yeah, it's a desirable mix, and just I love that stuff where it bounces back and forth, stereo stuff like that. Like that's just an experience. That's
sure.
Cool as shit. It's like wow. But yep. I thought I was going somewhere with that, but then I realized I was like, I don't have anything to say.
That's as far as that's the end of the. I should have.
Oh, vinyl. That's where I was going. Vinyl. Yeah, like when you put on like either a new or old school vinyl, like that there's dirt in there and all that stuff. It just kind of
cracks and
I love that. It just kind of like a warm fire kind of vibe. It's just something.
Yeah.
It just
If you play that rock and roll, you'll have that all the time in your ears.
yeah.
And you can't put that in with digital. You can, but it just doesn't have the same feeling.
Right.
I remember listening to songs like on CD where I knew the vinyl version, and I would listen for the pop at a certain time, but it wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was a little disappointing, wasn't it? Yeah. I know what you mean.
I took a audio engineer class that Rick Barnes taught at OUC, and I mean, he, in the introduction of the course, he was breaking down a wave, the wave, and a digital wave is a square wave, and a sound wave on tape is. So your ear obviously perceives that differently and is able to, it's like the ribbon mics and all that stuff. They were so warm and, they just sounded differently than all the. I mean, people become accustomed to that because it's all you hear after a while. When CDs came out, albums went to the wayside for 20 years or whatever. Nobody cared about, audio files, but the general population, where now, waxes back, but it took a while for it to come back, because of consumer, ease. You just pop in a CD and if you throw it down on the ground, you're still going to play. You just spray it with some whatever. Vinyl, you don't do that to it.
Right, you have to take care of it. And it's,
not more than twice.
So,
clean it, maintain it. You want it to sound good. So
it's so fascinating, the concept of vinyls, though. Like way back, like what were they, like slate? I thought at some point.
Wax tubes,
right? Those, and then they whenever like vinyls came out, they were extremely thick and heavy. Because I found I can't remember who had a collection of it. They were really, really hefty in those books that just have all the slots in there.
Probably had some of the old 78s. Yeah,
I've got a
thick
ones.
You had to have a special record player to play those.
So like the evolution in that form of like they're grooves that a needle lays in, and sound is, it's just like, that's so, I don't know, it just blows my mind.
It's magic, is what it is.
Somebody found that out somehow.
Like freaking Harry Potter up in this piece.
It's just very interesting. Like there's sound in this somehow. Like it's like
it's like looking in your ear.
Waxy and play him.
You just see Dan if you looked in there. There's nothing in that. Oh my.
Have you ever wanted to be a record producer in a studio? Or how about being involved in live event production for concerts, theaters, or houses of worship? Maybe even creating sounds for movies seen on Netflix, Hulu, and Disney? Ever wanted to make content for TV, broadcast, podcasting, or streaming? There is a school for you in Chillicothe, Ohio. It's called the Rec W. We offer short-term classes studying the art and business of music while working hands-on in our world-class recording studios. Book your free tour now by calling 740-835-4455 extension 2 or find us on Facebook and Instagram or at therecw.com. See you soon and mix on. That's therecw 740-835-4455.
The Rec W. Life changing education.
What do you do? How do you do?
How do you do it?
I like hearing other musicians talk about their gear. Not so much guitarists, sorry, but I'm totally
Start crying.
I like hearing musicians talk about their gear because you can always learn something. You know, there's always something that, I didn't know they even made that, you know, and whatever. So it's just interesting when someone you don't know, maybe heard one of their songs before or something, but and you're like, okay, I'm on the right track here. I'm using the same stuff, or I should look into, you know.
Yeah, like,
So
why do you play a Strat instead of
I'm kind of a gearhead. I have, I think 17 drum kits and 30-some snares, and I'm always tinkering with them, and the sound is, you know, I think I've gotten pretty good at tuning a drum kit. People say they sound good, so I take that as a compliment, because I've heard some drum kits, you're just like, it's so, why just bring cardboard boxes? It'd be lighter and may sound a little better. You know?
I actually, that is really good additive too.
I like hearing about people's gear too, honestly, and then like how they what they think about their sound, or what like what's your like. What do you have to have? Like, you know,
what do you gravitate towards for that?
If you were on a desert island, what one snare would you bring, or you know, guitar or amp or whatever?
Because I'm always watching those rig rundowns, and I'm like, that's what I got to get.
Well, I can. I mean, I'm not like able to identify a Harley from a Honda good, but I can tell a Pearl from a vintage American-made drum kit. I mean, you're just like, that's DW. You can just tell. There's nothing wrong with those.
Right.
I just like Harleys, so I want old, vintage, American-made drums, and that's all I own. So
same way with guitars.
When they come into my possession, I'm like, who's looking for a Pearl? You know, get this thing out of my house before somebody thinks I own this thing. You know, so I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of them. It's just, you know, personal preference. But you know, when you find someone that's into the same geeked out gear that you are, it's kind of fun to. You know.
Oh yeah, it's every instrument is like an extension of one's soul or whatever. You know, it's like I started with an.
Oh yeah, Willie Nelson's guitar. That thing, you know, that's such an iconic guitar.
Oh yeah, Trigger, right?
Yeah. Or yeah.
I watched the luthier that he is hired to fix that thing, because I mean, where his fingers go, it's like collapsing.
It's a guy from Stumac.
Yeah.
Just in Athens.
He definitely has a good video on him restoring.
That's where you should take your guitar.
I mean, I'd like to take a trip down there or over there and, just go crazy.
He's probably like, sorry, son, I don't work on Epiphones.
I love my Epiphone too.
At least it's vintage. That's the thing.
It's a good looking guitar.
People will work on vintage stuff because they're like, that's worth something.
Oh yeah.
Just a history, a history of a really old instrument or whatever.
I had a buddy that was, let's see, like 2010, 12. We'd drive all around Southern Ohio and Dayton area and whatever. He knew all these pawn shops and buy hair shops, and he was a Tesco vintage Japanese guitar geek. So he'd go in there and buy these guitars with that much dust on it nobody cared about for $20. Fix them up, clean the pots and everything, sell them on eBay for a couple $100.
Yeah.
And every now and then, I'd find something cool drum-wise, because that's all I was there for, was I helped him do the eBay stuff, but as far as whatever, I didn't, it was his money, whatever, then I'd help him list it. But then once in a while, I'd find some cool drum gear. But yeah, just see it. It's like, wow, that's a cool guitar. I know it. I only paid $20 for it. He said he's had it for 10 years and nobody's touched it,
Yeah.
I mean, they're cool guitars in their own right. It's whatever. It's interesting how people have their thing that they're obsessed about,
I watched the interview with Jack White, and he talks about buying these like really crappy old, Sears Roebuck catalog guitars. And it's like, I play with that because it's it's almost like he wants to punish himself because they're hard to play.
Yeah.
But also because the sound that he gets out of them, is just you can't
so unique.
replicate
Nothing
any
that
other way.
because most people are like, I wouldn't touch that guitar, it's below me. Yeah, but listen what I'm doing. Wah! You know.
He probably saves a lot of money buying those kind of guitars.
I doubt it.
They probably just give it to him. He's like, I'm Jack White, and they're like, here, have it.
Yeah, I got an old guitar for you that's been in my basement. It smells like mildew.
He's probably paying a guy $100,000 a year just to constantly maintain him and rebuild him.
Forearm muscles because he has to press down those strings.
The problem with those kind of weird guitars, though, is finding parts for them, like reproduction parts that are actually, gonna last you. You'd probably have to find, if like a bridge or something's broke off, like if it's a floating bridge.
Well, this guy had been a buddy of mine I was talking about. He had been a mad guitar luthier scientist so in his workroom it was just
wall to
wall parts guitars, and he might have had 4 or 5 that were everything else. I mean, going back into the 20s, some cool shit.
Wow.
Wall hangers.
That's awesome.
He lives over in Bainbridge. I mean, I'm sure he's still doing it. If he's still alive, I kind of lost touch with him, but
Yeah, I mean, musician-wise on your podcast, like if I'm listening to other musicians, I want to know, like, do you take your instruments to have them?
Oh yeah, we're still going.
Oh yeah.
Oh, in your face.
Notice he put it way up closer.
But yeah, so. But like if I'm a musician, I'm listening to other music. Like, do you have your guitar tech that sets up your guitar? Do you set them up yourself? Because I've always felt like setting up my instrument is like, it's almost like therapy, you know what I mean? Like you take it like, oh, these strings are sounding a little dead, and it's got some gunk on it from beer or whatever, from the shows, and it's just like you get it. It's like starting over. You get that fresh sound. Like I know bass players that don't change their strings like maybe once or twice a year, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of them do.
20 years.
Yeah, I was online on the bass player group, and he was like, yeah, my strings usually last about 13 years. Not even joking. You know what I mean? I'm just like, because I change mine every month and a half to 2 months, if we're going to record, I always put new strings on whenever we record anything. Just because I love the sound of new strings, and I like setting up my instruments. I think it's fun, messing with the truss rod and adjusting the action, and all that stuff is just like, because it takes your mind away from all the noise.
Packing your own chute, man. It's going to work when you get up there.
Exactly. And it's and there's just something about seeing it and playing it. It's just always like the phoenix rising from the ashes kind of. I know it sounds a little bit.
There's no way I would ever.
That's how I feel about it. That's why.
It kind of makes it like a one-off.
There's no way I'd ever trust somebody else setting up my snare and then playing it on stage for 3 hours and not expecting the bottom to fall out of it. I always take a couple. Sometimes when I come in here, 3 snares. Because you never know which one's going to sound the best. Right. And if one falls apart, I don't want, we got to take a 20-minute break. I just throw another one in there and beat it till it falls apart,
Yeah.
But that's also goes to quality gear. I don't have that problem when you play good stuff.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Right, until you break strings. And then.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but you
it's fair wear and tear, yeah.
Well, that's thanks to... Roger helped me out with getting strings, and this certain brand that I've decided to settle on. I won't say the name because there's no sponsors.
Because they're not paying me.
But and plus I don't want people to know what I'm using. Magic.
Try to capture that Gage sound.
Yeah, just stay away from that, please. I think I do play rather hard, but I think all that stuff really just that shines through when you're live and even in the studio too, and all the gear you run through. It just that's what it is. I mean, how much you tweak your pickups, and like I have a 61 Les Paul reissue, and it has the sideways vibrola tailpiece, and I blocked it off myself because the tonality was getting thrown off in the tuning of it. So like I bolted it down and blocked it off so it doesn't work, but it still looks sexy. And then it just creates a whole other thing. And I just right behind the bridge I'll strum and it'll create like a harp sound. Bling, do that stuff and just add little things like that. Yeah. And then certain gauge picks and how hard you want to
it all
rip
makes a difference. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And the way we tune too, we don't tune standard.
Right.
I won't share that information. Just trying to keep some secrets.
I mean,
here.
people can figure that out if they're musicians, probably, if they would try to play along. Especially, well, and that's like I remember when we were more of when we were the other band.
Right.
I played with the 4-string bass because I was like, I don't need extra or whatever. But once we started playing what we play now, I got my 5-string basses out and bought another 5-string bass because I like having those 5 lower notes, and then whatever weird tuning Gage tunes to, I can find it on a 5-string bass. Whereas I might have to mess with my tuning if I played a 4-string.
I'm trying to experiment with open tunings.
Okay, yeah.
Here and some of the new stuff. Hopefully, we're gonna try and debut some stuff
you're a
here
bass
soon.
player?
But, yeah.
So that makes it exciting as a bass player to figure out where the hell the guitar player is.
Yeah.
In the tuning, you know what I mean? Like I'll play it almost like, oh, that's weird. That's ooh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's kind of like an adventure trying to figure out,
I think I just kind of started. I stay in this lane that I know that I'm good at. I know I can expand, but I just feel I'm comfortable. But there's only so much that I want to. I'm not looking to be the best. I'm just looking to be able to tell my story through music. So I'm not trying to getting doing all the tapping and all this other stuff. I know that it probably will help if you learn, different scales, and I'm sure I'll eventually get there. But as of right now, I think the way that I play, and the way that I try to say what I want is really more captured within the rock and roll essence, and probably even some folk blues thrown in there too when we do some acoustic stuff. But then when I start hearing slide guitar, I started thinking about, well, what's that entail? And then open tunings obviously pop up, and then I'm like, well, let's just write songs in open tunings.
Yeah. And
then there's just a slew of other artists that are doing that, and I listen to their stuff and I'm just like, holy biscuits, that's so more cinematic.
Easy, there's kids listening.
So I'm trying to watch, but I think if I can get somewhere that is just huge within this cinematic rock essence, it's almost like that's the goal for me particularly. I don't like to try to influence anybody. I just want to, like I said earlier, just bring it to the table, and they'll just put their thing on it, and that's always been very gratifying, or very, very good. Everything that I've put through with us has just been really, really satisfying for sure.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's just I always call it, say we can shake that down, because we're shake down, and it's and I love dad jokes, but yeah, it feels like that. It's like we run it through the band filter and it comes out this new breathing thing.
The new thing that we might be debuting at the next show, I hope, it's just an instrumental.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love
vocals,
that.
But it's an open tuning, and I sent the video first, and then I think we had a while before we practiced.
Yeah.
And then when we got there, we did it, and it just turned into this tribal, just this crazy thing where it's this is going to be an opening kind of number of sorts, so just kind of just rip it, and then that'll kind of introduce this whole journey of the show, so that's kind of the idea is having that where you see the credits in the beginning of films and there's music playing. It's kind of introducing. That's kind of the vibe. So that's I just think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that kind of just calls back to that's what we get excited about. The new stuff, the original stuff,
how hard are you willing to work? What are you gonna do next? So yeah, definitely. I'm very interested in knowing what the gear, why they pick it, and what it what does that do to inspire them to write. I think it's all kind of in a thing,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so many different little things that affect. I don't know. I find that interesting when I'm listening to podcast about musicians or interviews with musicians. It's like what little things do you do to make your sound kind of thing?
What gets you off?
Yeah.
Yeah. Should I say that? I don't know.
Say whatever you want.
No, I don't know. I'm not the runner of the show.
You know what I mean?
He's like, no, please don't say that.
He's like, please stop. Your guys' session ended 30 minutes ago. Get the hell out of here.
Now it's just getting weird in the tiny room.
It's the name of the new album, Weird in a Tiny Room.
I tell you what, there's a lot of really good local bands out there, man.
Yeah, they need to be.
We have Basement Collective lined up.
I love
They're
them.
great.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to do bands. We're going to do like comedians and whatever else we can get into.
Yeah.
There's some actors around.
Yeah.
So
It's a very for a small area, we're blessed with the community of artists and entertainers that we have around here. I mean, and it seems like for the most part that it's a camaraderie, not a competition.
Right.
I don't know how many shows, probably every show that we've played, we look out and there's some of the Thick Boys or Basement Collective or whatever, just hanging out, listening for several or the whole night. It just depends. But
we try to
do the same thing. Absolutely, because
it's a good time. I mean, it's there's a lot of talented musicians and comedians or whatever in the area, and I love now that the bars and the, other venues are having live stuff again. Of course, we went through 2020 and everything was shut down, and I feel like there was a time where it was stagnant, and now it seems like it's kind of jumping again.
Yeah, that was kind of the whole reason that I started the Ohio Vibe, was because there was so much talent in this area and Ohio, and a lot of it didn't get any exposure. So that's when we started the showcases and stuff like that, like we did at the Majestic.
that was a lot of fun. We
did some at the bank
too, right?
We've played two of those a month apart. The first one was good. I felt the second one was really good.
Yeah.
We were more comfortable. The students were a little bit better at what they needed to do, so it sounded better. It sounded better early or on.
Right. Yeah.
It seemed like we started and there were still some audio issues with vocals and guitar and stuff and whatever. It's like to me, I felt like maybe they didn't get the sound check done in time for go time.
Well, and I think that's an interesting point too. What a lot of people who don't play music in front of people don't understand is there was 3 mixes that night. There was the monitors, there was the front of house, and then there was the
what you heard on
the live stream, and every single one, and all of them sounded different. Like because in watching the live stream back, after, of course, obviously we can't watch it while it goes on, but it was like, wow, that's not how we sounded, whatever, and the people who haven't had that experience wouldn't even know, you kind of. If you're watching, like, say, an award show and the guy's singing or whatever and you can't hear him, you're like, well, why doesn't he, tell somebody?
Right.
Well, because his mix sounds great.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that you can't hear it on the live. So that's an interesting kind of thing too,
So I've always felt, and it's always funny that it's two big time shows, but Saturday Night Live, the vocals are always buried, and when David Letterman was on, when he'd have live band, you're like, I can't wait to hear whoever, and you're like, I can't even hear the guy sing. What is going,
Right.
And I'm sure same thing,
Yeah, their monitor mix was probably
they
badass.
probably thought they were great.
Probably out there in the audience, they were like throwing devil horns. But you're watching it at home, you're like, I don't even know what's going on right now. Like, I can't hear anything.
But the community is definitely blessed that the recording workshop and Majestic work together in that aspect, because we're so used to playing in bars that aren't much bigger than this room, and so when suddenly you have this huge stage that's been around for 200 years, and the ghosts are helping you set up the drums, it's just I just love playing there. I mean,
you see someone up in the balcony and you're like, is that a real person?
Yeah. They give you a thumbs up, so you assume it's not.
The more the merrier.
But it's just I really like playing there. Over the years, we played with you there many years ago, and we did a Sojourners thing where played there with Jimmy Fleming, and I think there were several bands at that thing, and it's just always a great place to play, and I'm glad that it gets used in that, as that the community uses it and gets access to it. It could have gotten boarded up and shut down many years ago, and we get to use it. So I think that's definitely a blessing to have larger venues for the bands to I love playing outside. So I don't have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about the cymbals killing everybody's ears. I can play kind of where I want to, not where I need to. You know, those little shotgun bars. You're like, man, this is really gonna hurt these guys, but I'm playing this song the way I want to. All I can hear is drums. Yeah, I know. I don't care. No, I'm not that.
Oh, man. I love the way your drum sounds. So
what? Yeah, what?
Well, thanks guys for being on.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I love what you guys are doing with
Yeah.
this thing. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool to hear some of our
it's going to be cool to hear him talk so much because he's
love
so
to hear
shy
that
and
stuff.
quiet.
Yeah.
You know, normally
It's like, wow.
can't get a word. I was worried it'd just be Gage and I talking about stuff, but
Yeah. Dan has an opinion on something?
and he's willing to vocalize it.
Yeah. It's so weird. There's a mic in front of him and everything.
I mean, we could spend another half an hour talking about like gyms and makeup and stuff that I wear.
Or we could talk about kilts too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I think
That's a different podcast. Maybe even a different studio. I don't know.
all right.
Cool. Thanks guys.
Thank you.